Now we all know that roots are the part of the plant that are not visible to us. These are under the soil. Now before we talk about root and its functions, first let's observe this image. Now you can see that Bujo is watering the plant as well as Paheli is also watering the plant. Now if you look at both of them, who do you think is watering the plant correctly? So you will say that, ma'am, Paheli is, watering the plant properly. Why is that? Because as you can see, Bujo is watering the leaves, whereas Paheli is watering the soil. And we know that roots are present in the soil, right? Whereas leaves do not require water in this way. Right, we have studied in the previous sessions when we were talking about leaf and stem that the water that the leaf gets is from the root, right? And root are present in the soil. So water is absorbed by the roots from the soil. To understand it a little better, let's perform an activity. You can conduct this activity in the groups of 4 and 5, and it's a very fun activity and you'll really enjoy it. What you have to do is you have to take two plants that are similar, right? Take two similar plants, then two pots, and what you need to do is label them. So this is plant A and then this is plant B. One of the plants is with the roots. So you're going to take two plants, keep one plant with the roots, right? So this is with roots. And cut off the root of the other plant and then plant it in pot B. Now keep watering it for a few days, right? So keep watering this plant as well as this plant for a few days, right? You will observe that after some time this plant is flourishing, that means it is growing. You can do this activity for like a week. Let's say you water these two plants equally for 2 weeks, right? You will find that this plant is flourishing, it's growing, whereas this plant has started, this plant is withering, that means it's drying, right? It is not able to survive. What is the difference between the two plants? They are similar in all aspects. The only difference is that the plant that is in pot A has roots, whereas the plant that is in pot B do not have roots. So in this way, it shows that the root is essential for the survival, right? What another thing which you can observe here is that root, wherever in the plant where there is no root, the plant is not surviving, and the reason is that the plant is not able to receive water, right? So no absorption of water is taking place. That means the water is not being absorbed by the plant, right? Whereas over here in plant A, you can see that the root is absorbing the water and the plant is flourishing, right? Whereas this plant will dry out. So after a week, if you see, A is growing, the plant A will be growing, whereas the plant B, what will happen to plant B? It will dry and it will die in some time. So this shows that the root has an important role in survival, and one of the functions is the absorption of water and minerals from the soil, right? So in this way, students, we perform this activity to understand an important function of the root. Now, moving on to the next activity, this will help us in understanding the other function of the root. Now, for this activity, you need a maize seeds, you need gram seeds, you need cotton. So now what you do is take a bowl, put cotton in it, right? Take another bowl, keep cotton in it, put gram seeds in one and maize seed in another. Put water, keep on adding little water, not too much. Do not put a lot of water in it, just enough to keep the cotton moist, right? So this is moist cotton, right? To keep the cotton moist. Then what you're going to do is that you will keep the cotton moist. So you will observe that after few days, and you have to keep it until both these seeds are sprouting. So after few days, you will observe that this kind of sprouting has taken place, right? So this is sprouts, right? So now when you will pick up the cotton, you will observe that the seeds, if you pick up the cotton, suppose this is the cotton pad, when you pick it up like this also, the seeds will not fall. The reason is that the root has anchored itself into the seed. So the root has anchored itself into the cotton, right? So this is the root that is growing, and as you can see over here, it has anchored itself into the cotton. So that means that it helps in holding the plant at one place, right? So with this activity, we understand that root helps in holding the plant firmly in soil, right? So this is one of the things. Apart from that, what happens is this particular process is known as anchoring, right? That means the root anchors the plant at one place, right? It anchors the plant into the soil. So with this activity, we are able to see that how the root of gram as well as the root of maize has the similar function. Now with this activity only, we'll move on and understand the types of root. Now we will pick up the seed of gram and seed of maize, and then we will observe the kind of root that is growing. Students, be sure to do this activity up till you have to keep the gram and maize seeds until they get a proper amount of a proper length of root, right? Now what you do, take out one seed of gram and one seed of maize and observe their seeds. You will see that the gram seed looks something like this. So this is gram and this is maize. Now if you observe, right, if you are able to observe the gram seed and maize roots, this is the root of gram and this is the root of maize. So you will be able to observe there is a variety, or there's a huge difference between the two. You can see the difference between the structure of the gram root and the difference between the structure of the maize root. Now if you compare, right, if you compare these two, you will find that over here you can see that there is a main root in the gram and you have these smaller roots growing alongside, whereas no such growth is seen in the root of maize, right? So you can see that yes, there are, with this activity you can conclude that there are different types of roots. Students, it is important to remember this activity because this will help you in further understanding the different types of roots that are there. Right, so please remember this activity. We will come back to this after we perform this another activity. What you have to do for this activity is that you have to go to an open ground where many plants, that is the wild plants, are growing. You dig out a few of them and wash the soil off, and then you observe the root. So as you can see that some of the plants will show these kind of root. Where do you find, if I show you these two roots, this is the A and B. The root that you have observed of the grass is like this, right? Over here if you observe like this. Also if you see in maize, right? So you can see that, okay, definitely this is a simple, there is no outgrowth like these in the maize, and that's why we can say that the maize is again similar to the maize root is similar to the grass root that we saw. Then if we look at the other type, this A part, so it has a main root and then there are other smaller roots growing. And similar structure was seen in the gram as well. So there was this main root and there were these smaller structures that were growing. These are the two different types. One is called as the taproot system, right? And other is called as the fibrous root system, right? So one is taproot. This is the taproot system, and other is the fibrous. What is the difference between the two? So when we talk about the taproot system, if you observe, there is a main root in it, right? So you can see that the main root is called as the taproot. That is why the system is called as the taproot system, wherein there is a main root known as the taproot, and then there are smaller roots called as the lateral roots, right? Known as the lateral roots. These are the smaller roots. As you can see in this image also, this red colored is the taproot, right? This is the main root, and then you have the smaller roots called as the smaller roots called as the lateral roots. Then this system where you have a main root and then the lateral roots is known as the taproot system. Next is the fibrous root system, right? In this fibrous root system, there is no main root. As you can see, all the roots look similar. So this is like a tuft of hair, right? So there is no you can see there is no main root in it, and there is just a tuft of roots. So this is called as the fibrous root system, where all the roots look similar to one another, right? So in this way we see these are the two types of roots called as the taproot and the lateral. Now when you went to your playground and open area and you plucked out some of the plants to observe their root, you will observe first what you are going to do is you are going to make two piles, right? What you are going to do in two piles is that keep one pile as the taproot, another you keep as fibrous, right? So keep the plants having the taproot over here, right, and keep the plant having fibrous root over here. Now students, observe the kind of leaves they have. So the leaf of the plant having taproot system would have what kind of reticulation? You will see that the venation that you have is reticulate, right? Whereas when you look at the fibrous root system, you will see that the venation is parallel, right? This is something which you will observe. You can see over here also, the plant has a main midrib, and then you have the parallel venation. So the fibrous root will have parallel venation and the taproot will have reticulate venation. With this you can fill this table. You can take the plants which you know, plants like wheat, right? Then you can take plants like gram, right? You can think of, you can take the plant like, you can take plant like rice. Then you can observe that what type of leaf venation they have. So wheat has parallel venation, whereas gram has reticulate. And with this you can see that what type of, and with this you will be able to see the type of root. So for parallel venation, we've seen the root is fibrous, right? Whereas for the reticulate venation, the root is taproot, right? So in this way we can observe that there is a relationship between the venation and the roots of a plant. With this particular activity, Bujo has a brilliant idea that if you want to know whether a plant has a taproot system or a fibrous root system, you need not pull it out. What you have to do is simply look at the venation. So plant having reticulate venation, they will have taproot system. Whereas the plants having parallel venation will have fibrous root system, right? So in this way we will see we see that these are the two types of root system, and we observe that we can simply look at the venation of the plant and understand the root system. Now, once we have understood the root system, now let's talk about another important aspect of plant and the relationship of root and stem. And what is that? That stem act as a two-way traffic. How does it do so? Let's understand that. The very first thing is, as you can see in this picture, there are two arrows. One is the blue arrow indicating water, and other is the black arrow indicating food material. Now we already know that root absorbs water from the soil, right? So what happens is that root takes up water from the soil and it distributes the water, or the water is taken up through the stem to all the leaves, right? So the water goes up the root, as you can see with the help of these blue arrows. Then the leaves, what they do is they make food, right? And we know that the food that is made by the leaves is required by the whole body of the plant. So from the leaves, the food goes to all the parts of the plant, including root. So in this way we see that, suppose this is the stem of a plant, right? So the blue colored arrows show the water moving up to the leaf, and the black colored arrow show the food going down towards the root and the other parts of the plant, right? So in this way we see that how this stem acts as a two-way traffic, right? So it goes up to the leaves, the water goes up to the leaves, and from the leaves so the water goes up to the leaf, and from the leaf we see that the food is going to all parts of the plant, right? So in this way we see that the stem acts as a two-way traffic street, where one of the traffic is going upwards and the other is going downwards, right? So this is water and this is food. Now to understand this, you must have observed that there are certain food materials that we eat which are not exactly fruits. What are those materials? Like potato, right? Carrot, radish. So we know that carrot and radish are roots, right? Whereas your potato is a stem. So what happens is that the food from the leaf is stored in these parts, right? So food is stored in the modified stem, or it is stored in the roots, and this is what we consume, right? So this shows that the food from the leaf is taken away from the leaf and distributed to all the parts. In specific plants, it is stored in specific parts which we consume as food, right? Now this is the function. Now in this way we saw what is the function of root, and we also saw that how does stem acts as a two-way street. Now let's move on and understand and revise the functions of the root. First of all, the very important function is anchoring of the plant. That means it keeps the plant, or rather holds the plant in the soil, right? Then next, absorption of water and nutrients from the soil. So we have seen that how this root absorbs water and minerals from the soil and distributes it to all the parts of the plant. Preventing soil erosion. So again, because it holds the plant in the soil, so what happens is the root holds the soil as well. It holds it together and does not allow the soil to erode away. Additional roles can be of storage, like carrot and radish. Carrot and radish, right? So in this way, we see that there are different functions of roots and why is root so important for the plant.